Hello everyone, with the Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Tuesday evening, November 4, 2025. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you all like this video. I'd really appreciate it if you all get this video to 100 likes. If you don't know by now, that's how the YouTube algorithm works. We all like the video and then the YouTube algorithm pushes the video out to more persons who are in the path of these tropical systems so that we can keep everyone safe, especially during the peak months of Atlantic hurricane season. That's August through to October. Share this video with your friends, your co-workers, your relatives, and even your church brethren, and subscribe if you haven't yet done so. Please ensure that you all utilize the progress bar that's located at the bottom of the video, as well as the timestamps that are located not only in the comment section, but the video description, so that you can skip to the points in the video that you want to see the most in order to save time, because we know that the videos over here with the Jamaica can be very long. Leave a comment down below, let me know what the weather's been like in your area recently. Also, feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so we need to take a look at the Global Tropics Hazards Outlook update that just came out today from the forecaster Novella. They are highlighting that for the time period from November 12 to November 18, we're expecting some light shades of greens across the Greater Antilles, including Jamaica, and some greens across the Central America area. And if we take a look at the key on the bottom, we know the light shades of greens represents a 50% chance of above average rainfall, while the greens represents a 65% chance of above average rainfall. And even for the time period from November 19 to November 25, we're still seeing that 50% chance of above normal rainfall across sections of Jamaica, Cuba, the Cayman Islands, and even into portions of Central America and northwestern South America. And we definitely have to pay close attention towards all of this, because some areas are still without roofs, don't have much in the way of shelter. So if they are predicting more rainfall from maybe some troughs or whatever the case may be, it's just going to be spelling bad news for those persons out west across Jamaica. But as you can see, the Western Pacific, a lot of above normal rainfall, even the red and white patterns on both time periods across the Philippines into Vietnam, southern China, those areas still shaded. So we know that the red and white patterns represents a 20% chance of tropical cyclone formation probability. So we'll see it actually plays out over the next couple of weeks. Taking a look at the U.S. National Hurricane Center 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook that just came out at 6:14 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually the same time as Jamaica time, considering that the times have changed back. As you can see, tropical cyclone activity is not expected during the next 7 days, and this is the reason why the Atlantic right here not showing much of anything, just some clouds associated with that tropical wave across the Western Caribbean, no affecting portions of the Yucatan as well as maybe Belize. We can also see some clouds across the southern portions of the main development region associated with the intertropical convergence zone. That's where the air from the northern hemisphere meets the air from the southern hemisphere, and then we have a lot of rising air clouds, showers, and thunderstorms. So nothing really noteworthy going to be developing over the next 7 days. I know that if something should develop, the next name on the list after Melissa is Nestor. Taking a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening, we can see the blue spike line associated with a frontal system extending from the northern portion of the North Atlantic all the way down to the Bahamas, Cuba, the northwestern Caribbean, into the Gulf. We can see numerous troughs as represented by the broken orange lines just to the north and west of that frontal system. There's another trough right here across the northeastern Caribbean, another trough right here just to the northeast of South America, so right here just to the north of Suriname and French Guiana. There are also two frontal systems that have induced troughs into portion of the northern portion of the North Atlantic, just to the north of the main development region. We can see the ridge of high pressure right here to the north that we know is responsible for sending all the low to mid-level clouds from east to west across the main development region through to the Caribbean. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before we lost sunlight, we can make out the clouds associated with that frontal system, and that line of clouds extends into Florida, Cuba, and the southern Gulf right there, just like what we saw on the surface map. The clouds associated with the trough just to the northwest of there, clouds associated with the other trough across the northeastern Caribbean, You can also see the clouds associated with that other trough just in the north of Suriname and French Guiana. Clouds associated with the intertropical convergence zone, like what we mentioned earlier. Clouds associated with the frontal systems that have induced troughs right here across the waters to the north of the main development region. And we can see that most of these clouds are being steered from east-west. We're talking about the low to mid-level clouds across the main development region through the Caribbean, all courtesy of the ridge of high pressure that we saw to the north. We'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean weather later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Tuesday, November 4, 2025. It was stated that rainfall could have been in the forecast for parts of northeastern parishes in Jamaica on Tuesday, also affecting sections of some southern parishes. We know that some of the clouds could have spilled into sections of southern Jamaica, bringing us some rainfall. And northeastern parishes, we're basically talking about those parishes like from St. Ann eastward, St. Mary into Portland. And our southern parishes, sometimes the clouds from the northeast would have spilled into sections of some southern parishes. And we got that activity across sections of this southern parishes, but not necessarily all the southern parishes. But our southern parishes, we're talking about those parishes like Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, Clarendon, St. Catherine, Kingston, St. Andrew, and St. Thomas. And what ended up happening? At around 2:45 p.m., the visible satellite images were posted not only here on our Twitter page with the Jamaica, but it was also posted on our Instagram page with the Jamaica, on our TikTok page with the Jamaica, and on our Facebook page with the Jamaica 876. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there as we make posts throughout the day that you cannot afford to miss. So we can see the clouds that were pushing in from the northeast with that northeasterly flow, bring some overcast skies, if not some isolated shower activity to sections of St. Ann, St. Mary, and especially Portland. And some of this activity definitely spilled into sections of St. Thomas, my parish here. We got some of the activity across sections of Kingston, St. Andrew, and even parts of St. Catherine as well. And we can see it all even better on the visible satellite images of Jamaica before we lost sunlight. Look at all of the clouds pushing through into St. Thomas, pushing through Portland into Kingston and St. Andrew. Also had the activity spilling into sections of St. Catherine, and even as far as sections of Clarendon right here. And we even had some convection bursting right here. We can see the convection burst right here. Look at the greens, yellows, oranges, reds, not to mention the sparkling white dust that will represent some amount of lightning strikes, if not lightning flashes. So we definitely have the cumulonimbus clouds, as you can see here, especially across sections of southern St. Mary, northern St. Catherine, northern St. Andrew definitely got on some of the action. So too western Portland. And we see that the clouds were being sheared off towards the south by the upper level wind shear. And we also saw some thunderstorms right here just to the south of St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland at the end of it all. Unfortunately, we still don't have the Jamaican Doppler radar images to show because the Met Services radar has been down since Melissa. But we have the live camera here from C Jamaica's YouTube channel. This was at around 17:05 100 hours. That was about 5:05, and we saw the moderate to heavy rainfall. Let's rewind it. I mean, look, we can hardly see over this side, just so white, blanketed in some moderate to heavy rainfall. Everybody has their windshield wipers on. The traffic is gonna be piling up for sure. Just to confirm that we definitely had some rainfall during the afternoon hours in this part of St. Andrew. And if you'd like to see more live streams like this, just visit C Jamaica on YouTube. They have these live streams all for you all to view for free. So subscribe today to this channel so that you don't miss out. Taking a look at the total accumulated precipitation for the past 24 hours from the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology website. This map does indeed paint quite the picture for we had that rainfall today, especially across some northern, more so northeastern, and some southern parishes, especially during the afternoon. And we definitely had some of the comments that came in here from some of our followers to confirm what the weather is like in their area. We have Ren_is cool stating, I'm having a little rain on and off at the moment. We also have Maria Robinson stating, same here, on and off. We have on our Facebook page David Reed stating, I'm getting rain in the southeast of the island as we speak. Rain, rain, rain. Even on our Instagram page, we had the comments coming in. Lovable LaDonna stating, very cloudy and rains every minute in Morant Bay. Marlon_1 God_ stating, place cool and nice weather Jamaica. We have Tareen.Powell stating, raining on Red Hills Road. Brie_grab underscore it underscore sitting hard rain. Bull Bay. We also had Hot Diva 114 sitting sunny in Portmore. Higher Data sitting hot on Red Hills Road, but we just had somebody who stated that they got rain on Red Hills Road. And finally, we have Madame Mekhads stating it's overcast in the hills of Outages, and I'm just so concerned about those who have no safe covering a week later since the hurricane. I'm concerned. We're all concerned too. And finally, we have Coty Libra underscore 28 sitting hard rain falling Constant Spring Road. Thank you all for confirming what the weather is like in your area for today. Alright, so let us reload the very latest still image here from the Weather News website. The latest Jamaican Doppler radar, not gonna load, and Jamaica latest Cuban Doppler radar, the latest Guantanamo Bay US Navy radar, the latest Cayman radar. I want to see exactly what's taking place right now. So the latest Guantanamo Bay US Navy, well, the Guantanamo Bay, the latest Weather Nerd satellite imagery close up right here shows the leftover clouds from today's isolated thunder shower activity right here till bring some overcast skies to section of central Jamaica, sections of St. Catherine, Kingston, Clarendon. We can also still see that some thunderstorms are right here to the south of St. Elizabeth, and this is as of 23:55 UTC, which is actually 6:55 p.m. So this just came out 12 minutes ago, considering that it is 7:07 p.m. right now, and that's what's taking place. Definitely going to be blocking out the stars, if not the moon, over this part of the island up until the point those clouds dissipate. But we wish we had the Doppler radar imagery to show what's happening there if we're actually getting rainfall underneath those clouds. Jamaican Doppler radar down. Cuban Doppler radar still glitched out from October 29 when they got Melissa crossing over the Pelon radar. We have the Guantanamo Bay US Navy radar confirming some amount of rainfall that was taking place across the western peninsula of Haiti, the northwestern portions at that. We can also see the blues into the greens represents the light to moderate rainfall that affected portions of Portland earlier. And then as you can see by the time of recording right here, most of the rainfall has pushed inland with some rainfall still right here just to the east of the island. This is as of 23:50 UTC, which is actually 6:50 p.m. So yep, some rainfall up into the hills of Portland for sure. Taking a look at the Cayman radar, not seeing much of anything right here across western Jamaica, but we're definitely making out that rainfall right here to the south of St. Elizabeth, the green and the blues. That's some light to moderate rainfall, definitely in line with the thunderstorms that we saw out there underneath these clouds for sure. So I'm glad that we have the Cayman radar to look at. Cayman radar not showing anything across the island though. Nothing across the Cayman Islands at all either. Taking a look at the halfway tree live camera right here. As you can see, it's soaking wet right now to indicate that they definitely got in on some amount of rainfall in halfway tree this afternoon. I'm sure if we backtrack, we can see that, but nothing taking place right now. Definitely soaking wet though. Nobody walking. Well, I think I see one person walking with their umbrella still, but the rainfall has definitely cooled down. So this was 5:02, no rain yet. Hold on, let me get up into 1080p territory, HD top. Alright, starting to look soaking wet by around 5:33, so I'm guessing the rain fell somewhere between 5, just like in the Barbican era. So there we go, 5:07, nothing. There we go, 5:15, getting that rainfall for sure. Windshield wipers on, umbrellas out for sure. But as you can see now, nothing taking place according to the live camera. People walking about, going about their business. People in their vehicles going about their business. And that should be the order of the evening into the night, unless some of the northeasterly flow, the rainfall that's affecting Portland, continues to spill overnight into sections of Kingston and St. Andrew. It's definitely possible, considering that there's still more rainfall expected tonight because of this northeasterly flow. And if we take a look at the temperatures right now, we can see over 26 degrees Celsius in both Montego Bay and Kingston. And by about 4 a.m. on a Wednesday, temperature should dip down to about 26 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 25 degrees Celsius in Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow. This map from the GFS is valid for 18Z on Wednesday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Wednesday. And we can see Jamaica right here embedded in the grays that represents average temperatures. I know the average temperature for the month of November across Jamaica is around 88 degrees Fahrenheit, and when that's converted to degrees Celsius, that's about the same as 31.1 degrees Celsius. So that's the temperature forecast for Jamaica on Wednesday, and we're grateful that we still don't see any maintenance outage advisories here from my JPS online Twitter page. Most of the workers are definitely down west, trying to get everybody connected back to the grid. Boy, I feel for the people who are still gonna be without power because their houses have been damaged so drastically. So it's just going to be a bad situation. But bring on the electricity. Most of them have things that need to be cooled in the refrigerator and so on. And we have some tips right here to beat the heat as usual. It states here, seek shade when outside. Eat fresh, try eating cold food such as salads and fruit. Rest, make sure you get enough sleep and rest if you're feeling tired. Soak, take a cool shower or bath to help you cool down. And I cannot stress enough the importance of staying hydrated throughout the day. Drink lots of water even if you're not thirsty, and put away those sugar drinks and drink water instead. Taking a look at the dry air map, we know that the dry air is represented by what we see here on the key on the bottom. That's the yellows, the oranges, the reds, and the whites within those reds. And we can see the abundance of dry air extending all the way from Africa across the main development region into the Caribbean, off the east coast of the US down into the Gulf. A lot of dry air here and there. The dry air is responsible for shutting down the atmosphere in general, keeping the atmosphere stable, making it harder for it to rain. And we can say that there's a lot of dry air for sure taking over the Atlantic. And I'm sure that's what many people want right now, given the circumstances out west. Don't want any moist air with any unstable weather. Taking a look at the Saharan dust forecast for the next 3 days. So we're heading into November 5, November 6, and November 7. And as you can see, Jamaica should be right here in the clear. No Saharan dust to expect. We have some slight Saharan dust pushing through the main development region, but nothing significant, especially considering that we're not seeing any of the oranges into the pinks. And we know that if we normally see the oranges into the pinks, that represents a vigorous plume of Saharan dust that could cause very hazy skies, not to mention trigger respiratory illnesses in some persons. So we're grateful that for the next 3 days, not much in the way of Saharan dust is expected. Regarding the wave forecast for tomorrow, still seeing those blues across the Caribbean. We're talking about 1 to 1.5 meter wave height. And that's because of the easterly, if not east-northeasterly flow of winds averaging anywhere from 10 to 15 knots at most. And if we zoom in on Jamaica's wave forecast for tomorrow, to the north of Portland, we're expecting up to 1.3 meter wave height. To the north of St. Anne, 1.1 meter wave height. To the north of Hanover, 1 meter wave height. To the south of Westmoreland, 0.7 of a meter wave height. To the south of Clarendon, 0.8 of a meter wave height. To the south of St. Thomas, 1 meter wave height expected. And that's because of the east-northeasterly flow of winds that are expected, especially on the north coast, if not northeasterly flow, averaging about 10 knots right here to the north of Portland, about 11 knots right here to the north of St. Anne, right here to the north of Hanover, 12 knots. And we can see it coming in from the east right here to the south of St. Thomas, averaging 8 knots. And we are also seeing where the air is expected to pile up. Wherever we have the least amount of wind, that is where we could have some of these low-level clouds becoming mid-level rain clouds, if not upper-level cumulonimbus clouds. So that is where we could have some daytime heating. Rainfall and the upper-level winds still seem to be coming in from the north tomorrow. So something similar to what took place today. If we actually get thunderstorms to formulate, it's especially going to be across second to some southern parishes during the afternoon, northern parishes in the morning. And then if we get thunderstorms to formulate, the cloud tops are going to be sheared off to the south, just like what we saw with the clouds over here into northern St. Catherine. So that's going to be the order of the day for tomorrow. And if we take a look at the actual rainfall forecast maps now, this map from the Euro and this map from the GFS are both valid for midnight tonight. This is 12 a.m. and we're seeing that we're going to be getting in on the rainfall across section of Portland, maybe into eastern St. Thomas right there. Both the Euro and the GFS modes are in agreement with that. And then by around 8 a.m., look at this. Still expecting rainfall across the northeast. We're talking about St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland, maybe spilling into section of St. Thomas. And we see that both the Euro and the GFS modes are in agreement with that. And then finally, by around 3 p.m., we can clearly see that both the Euro and the GFS modes are still showing rainfall not only for the northeast, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland, but starting to get in on some of the action across some southern parishes too. So sections of St. Thomas, Kingston, St. Andrews, St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, and sections of Hanover, maybe southern St. James, southern Trelawney, getting in on some of the action. So I'm guessing it's going to be a day for all parishes getting on some amount of rainfall. eastern parishes. You know, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Surrey, like Portland, St. Thomas, Kingston, and St. Andrew. Central parishes, you know, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex, like St. Anne, St. Mary, Manchester, Clarendon, and St. Catherine. While western parishes, you know, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, like Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. So look out for that rainfall in the morning if you are up north, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland, maybe eastern St. Thomas, and the afternoon for the southern sides. So definitely a section of most parishes, eastern, central, western parishes, is going to be getting on that afternoon rainfall for sure. And even the total accumulated precipitation forecast maps here that are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Wednesday are showing rainfall across the entire island from the eastern end to the western end. We see all areas shaded in the greens, yellows, oranges, and even the reds, especially across the northeast. Up to 0.69 of an inch of rainfall right here in Portland expected. Up to 1.21 inches of rainfall expected according to the GFS. You're a bit more reserved. We'll see it actually plays out. And whatever happens, I guess we just have to take it. Can't do anything but take it. And we are in the month of November now, so we usually receive less rain than what we would have received in the month of October. In November, we usually receive around 92 millimeters of rainfall in St. Elizabeth. That is about the same as 3.6 inches of rainfall. While in St. Andrew, we usually receive around 137 millimeters of rainfall. In November, that's about the same as 5.4 inches of rainfall. And if you would like to find out what your specific parish usually receives in terms of rainfall for the month of November or for the entire year, you can visit nomadseason.com, and that website will show you that information. Alright, so we're going to be looking at what the next 7 days have in store for us according to the latest Euro and GFS supercomputer model runs that came out today. So keep your eyes focused on the timestamp right here at the top as we go out to the next 168 hours. Keep your eyes focused on Jamaica right here as we look for all of this that we see on the key on the right. That's the reds, the oranges, the yellows, and the greens that represent inches of rainfall. So let's see what's going to be taking place. So we just looked at Wednesday's forecast. Now it is time to look at what's expected on Thursday. And as you can see, 12Z on Thursday we know is 7 a.m. The Euro not really showing much of anything across Jamaica by that time. But Thursday afternoon we're seeing moisture across what looks like northern and western parishes. Does the GFS show the same? Thursday morning on the GFS looks like some rainfall to our north. Then on Thursday afternoon we're seeing that rainfall across sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes. What do we see on Friday morning? On Friday morning, not really seeing much of anything on the Euro. Friday afternoon, we're seeing rainfall across sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes on the Euro. What does the GFS show? Friday morning, not much of anything, just like on the Euro. Friday afternoon, rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes, just like on the Euro. What do we see on Saturday morning on the Euro? Not really seeing much of anything, maybe some moisture to the west and to the southwest of us. And then on Saturday afternoon, we're seeing moisture across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show? On Saturday morning, rainfall to the south of us, rainfall across the far eastern end. Then on Saturday afternoon, we're seeing rainfall across sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes. What do we see on Sunday morning? Sunday morning, we're not really seeing much of anything across Jamaica. Just a dot of green across the far eastern end. We're also seeing some moisture to the south and to the east of us, extending all the way over into the Windward Islands. Then on Sunday afternoon, we're seeing rainfall across what looks like central and eastern parishes the most. What do we see on the GFS for Sunday morning and afternoon? Sunday morning, rainfall to the west of us, to the south of us, extending all the way over into the eastern Caribbean. Then on Sunday afternoon, we're seeing rainfall, what looks like some central parishes getting in on that. What do we see on Monday morning? On Monday morning, we're actually seeing some moisture across some southern and eastern parishes. Then on Monday afternoon, we're seeing rainfall across sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes. And we're going to be stopping it right here at the end of the 168 hours. So this is valid for Tuesday, November 11. And look at that. What looks like a frontal system extending all the way from northern portion of North Atlantic, all the way down to the southern Bahamas, eastern Cuba, the Cayman Islands, Central America, the southwestern Caribbean, and even portions of Jamaica getting in on some of the action. What does the GFS show for Monday into Tuesday? Do we have agreement? For Monday morning, not really seeing much of anything, but we do see a lot of moisture to the south of us extending into Hispaniola. Then on Monday afternoon, maybe some of that moisture extending into the far eastern end of the island. Then, just like on the Euro, we're stopping it at the end of the 168 hours. So this is also valid for Tuesday, November 11, and just like on the Euro, we're seeing the moisture associated with what looks like a significant cold front, and a lot of moisture associated with it, extending from the northern portion of North Atlantic all the way down to portion of the Bahamas, Cuba, sections of Jamaica, as well as Central America and the southwestern Caribbean. Very interesting for sure, but boy, it's gonna be bad if this actually plays out for those persons out west, given how, you know, these cold fronts bring some cooler than average temperatures right behind them after the rainfall that most people aren't really sheltered from at this time, especially across western Jamaica, with the amount of roofs that have been blown off. My God. And if we take a look at the total accumulated precipitation forecast maps here from the Euro and the GFS, both maps right here are in agreement that there should definitely be rainfall from now up until Tuesday, November 11. We're seeing both the Euro and the GFS maps showing the dark reds into the purples and the pinks that we know represents anywhere from 2 all the way up to 5 inches of rainfall, and we see that especially across the waters just to the east of the Windward Islands and to portion of northeastern South America, anywhere from Colombia westward. We're talking about Panama, Costa Rica, coastal Nicaragua, coastal Honduras, Guatemala, Belize, into the Yucatan, getting on some of the rainfall even in trailing. We're talking about the dark reds into portions of Jamaica right there, some of the rainfall right here to the northeast of the Bahamas as well. And if we take a look at the GFS, we are seeing something similar on both maps for sure. Very interesting. So you know that some of these areas could get in some amount of isolated flash flooding, while most of the areas that are shaded in the greens, yellows, oranges, red, that's only about an inch of rainfall or less across areas like the Greater Antilles, Cuba, Hispaniola, the Leeward Islands right there. But regarding Jamaica's rainfall totals for the next 7 days, both maps right here are showing Jamaica shaded in the greens into the yellows into the oranges from now up until Tuesday, November 11. I know the greens into the yellows into the oranges represents anywhere from 15 millimeters all the way to maybe 50 millimeters of rainfall, and we can clearly see that the most rainfall should either be on the far northeastern end or the eastern end, where the Euro has Jamaica getting up to a total of maybe 84 millimeters of rainfall in some isolated eastern spot. The GFS maybe up to the 50, maybe close to 60 millimeters of rainfall range. We'll see it actually plays out, and whatever happens, I will definitely be here to keep you posted if that occurs, if God spares life. Taking a look at what's happening across the rest of the Caribbean basin. So as stated, we have a frontal system inducing a trough. Some clouds bring some rainfall to sections of the Bahamas into Cuba. The tropical that was affecting us now pushed into the Yucatan and Belize, Honduras. We can also see some low to mid-level clouds pushing in from east to west across sections of the Caribbean. And if we take a look at the Doppler radar imagery here, going down into Puerto Rico, what's taking place down there, we're seeing a lot of moisture right here to the north of Dominican Republic. There's some light to moderate, even some heavy rainfall. There's some hit or miss rainfall in and around Puerto Rico and the Leeward Islands. But if we load these images from earlier today, we can actually see we had some rainfall across sections of southern portions of Puerto Rico, some rainfall in and around Montserrat and Guadeloupe. And if we take a look at the Barbados radar, we can see that most of the moisture here on the Barbados radar is confined to the Trinidad and Tobago area, a lot of that pushing off towards the west as we speak. If we take a look at the wider view of Doppler radar images, though, we can see a lot of moisture across section of the Dominican Republic, especially the northern portion. Some of this activity spilling into Haiti. We can also see the moisture right here associated with the frontal system across the northwestern portion of Cuba, and the moisture affecting portion of coastal Belize and the Yucatan associated with a tropical wave. Some of the moisture pushing into Nicaragua as well. And regarding where the rainfall is expected within the next 24 hours, both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are in agreement that within the next 24 hours, we're talking about from now up until 10 p.m. on Wednesday, there should be rainfall wherever we have the greens, yellows, oranges, and reds up to an inch of rainfall or less for portions of Cuba, the southern Bahamas, Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, the US and British Virgin Islands, sections of Anguilla, Montserrat, Antigua and Barbuda, so too sections of Barbados, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, section of Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, Suriname, French Guiana, Venezuela, the ABC Islands, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, well, not El Salvador, seeming to be in the clear for the most part. Sections of Belize into the Yucatan for the most part, and even section of the Cayman Islands getting in on some of that as well. And we can clearly see that both the Euro and the GFS modes are in agreement with that forecast. Regarding what's happening here on the eastern Pacific side of things, nothing at all. Tropical cyclone activity is not expected during the next 7 days, and that's because all of what we were looking at over the past couple of days have died down. A lot of clouds here and there, but nothing looking like it's going to organize. I know that if something should organize, the next name is Sonia. Regarding what's happening on the western Pacific side of things and the Indian Ocean side of things, nothing to worry about on the Indian Ocean side of things. No suspect areas over there. But the western Pacific, we've been watching typhoon called Maggie that lashed the Philippines over the past 24 hours, and we have footage to show of the destruction and the flooding. And to the east of that, we were watching a code red yesterday, which has now transformed into a tropical depression number 32W. And if we take a look at the infrared right here, the rainbow loop shows a lot of deep convection just off to the west of the Philippine Islands right here. Still expected to, strengthen and push towards the Vietnam area. They've been getting hit all year long in Vietnam, and there's another one that's coming their way. Regarding the close-up of Typhoon Maggie, we can see most of the deep convection, the thunderstorms are just off to the west of majority of the Philippine Islands right here. Still expected to strengthen over the warm waters of the western Pacific as it pushes towards Vietnam. And we see the intensity forecast. 70 knot winds is what it is maintaining right now. That systems that have anywhere from 65 to 83 knot winds are classified as category 1 hurricanes. In this case, they are called typhoons. 70 knot winds, it's expected to increase 75, 85, 95, and if it's going to be getting up to 95 knot wind, anywhere from 84 to 95 knot winds are classified as category 2 hurricanes. And don't be surprised if it exceeds category 2 and gets into 3 or even 4, especially over the very warm waters over here. We know that intensity model guidance isn't really these hurricane center strong suits. I've seen it before where they predict it to be only just a 95, and then when you look, transform into a whole category 4 if not category 5 hurricane. So we definitely have to pay close attention as to how this system unfolds. As of right now, it should be maintaining that west-northwest trek into Vietnam, making landfall into Vietnam by around what looks like November 6 right here. And as stated, we have the footage coming out. This is Volcaholic. This is one of the pages that I follow. You need to follow this page as well. They share some of the wildest regarding what's taking place across the world in terms of weather. And they've stated here today, horrific flooding across Cebu, Philippines after typhoon called Maggie. Homes gone, streets underwater, families displaced. This is not normal. Warmer ocean, stronger storms, climate change, worse flooding. What we're seeing in Cebu is part of a growing global pattern. Extreme weather becoming more extreme, more frequent, and more devastating. We need urgent climate action, not tomorrow but now. And let us rewind the video and watch it. Alright, let's go. Look at the cars being swept away. My goodness, this is in the Philippines, and that was just a tropical storm that just became a hurricane. That's a lot of rainfall. Look at this big, huge how do you call them? Container that we usually see at the back of trucks that's washing away. It's crazy. Water up to the first floor level. Look at that man on his not even my balcony. That looks like a roof. Another set of people over there on the roof. My goodness, so much flooding taking place. And boy, these things happen. So we see that it's not only Jamaica that experienced this. Now we're having it happen in the Philippines. A lot of flooding, a lot of inundation taking place. And it's not only this clip that we saw today. I mean, here's another one. One of the lucky animals rescued during the catastrophic flooding in Cebu, Philippines, caused by typhoon called Maggie. And here we have the animal that they're referring to. This is a cow, and boy, lucky bad, because boy, look at the amount of water. Look at the amount of water, man. The water murky too, to show that they've definitely been getting in some very heavy rain over there. Alright, so moving on, as I've stated, the code red that we've been watching yesterday that was just to the southeast of the typhoon, it has been upgraded to a tropical depression. See, it's starting to have that look already, trying to get itself organized. As of right now, it is packing 30 knot winds. That systems that pack anywhere close to 33 knot winds are classified as tropical depressions. And as you can see, it is expected to increase in intensity. 40 knots, 70 knots, 90 knots, 110 knots, 120 knots. Then back to 115 just before landfall in the northern Philippines. But let's get back to 120 knots. When systems get up to anywhere from 113 to 136 knots, so it's about 120 in the middle there. We're talking about a category 4 hurricane, so that's going to be a major hurricane for us. But for them, it's going to be a super typhoon. We know that anything that's category 4 or category 5 over this side of the world, they call them super typhoons. We call category 3 to 5 major hurricanes in the Atlantic. They call category 4 and category 5 systems super typhoons. So it's looking like this could develop. They're sure that this one is going to be developing into a super typhoon the more it pushes towards the north and the west, towards the northern Philippine island right there, mainland there. It's going to be a bad situation for sure for them over there. Whatever happens, I'll definitely be here to keep you posted with what occurs. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.